Welcome, Steve, to doing this Zoom interview. I so appreciate it, and I feel so lucky that you agreed to do it. And there's so many things I want to talk about, and let's just dive in.
Jump in. Well,
Yeah,
thank
let's dive
you.
in.
Nice to see you. Yeah,
Nice to see you too. It's been a while.
I know.
I was saying before we came on when I was talking to you that there's a lot of information out there of you as a businessman, an investor, a philanthropist, obviously the co-owner of the Indiana Pacers. And I feel like I've also gotten a chance to see the other side of you. And I'm not saying that some of this doesn't come out in the other ways, because of course it does, and it's so connected. But there's a really sensitive, compassionate, empathetic, and constantly growing part of you that is so important. And I think that as part of an important family that gives back to the community, and also bringing that into your own family with your children and the way that you thought, act as a dad and how important that is to you. I just want to talk about a little bit of where that comes from. And as we go into mental health awareness, what has mental health meant to you in both your business and in your personal life?
That's a big, wide starting point, huh?
Yeah, let's just dive right in.
Well, by the way, I mean, I'm looking at your book, Soulbriety, but obviously getting sober was, a transformative. There was a before and an after as far as me, you know, being open enough to start to, you know, uh, look at my mental health challenges, look at my struggles, look at my neuroses, look at my human condition in a way that, so that was such a catalyst. And by the way, like I haven't talked to you in a while, but the 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 continued like surrounding benefits of which you were the first person who ever told me about this somatic work, but with my somatic experience therapist and my own therapist, like all these inputs have continued to allow me to learn to be more myself and feel all my feelings in a way that for most of my life, I didn't know I was missing that opportunity in a way. So I
Mm.
think, as
I,
time, yeah,
yeah,
go ahead, go
say
ahead.
I love that, because I felt like for me, and so true, I think that most people that are in sobriety or in recovery of some sort have the before and the after, where we sort of look back and with empathy on that other, that younger self and that child or that adolescent, and really feel so, in a way, removed from it and different. But I also was about 10 years sober before anyone talked to me about somatic work or trauma or my inner world.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized I needed more than just my recovery, but that there was this urgency for me to continue to grow down, hence sobriety.
By the way, you've modeled that for me incredibly. It's been such an aspiration, seriously. The somatic thing, I don't, we could talk about anything, but you know,
Let's
and
talk about it.
by the way,
It's so meaningful.
my both my therapist and Lori Lynn White, I could name both all these incredible people in my life, but my somatic therapist, like they are so good at bringing up that opportunity to comfort this, this, the inner child or the younger self, the much younger self in a
Mhm.
way that would have been, I mean, I just wouldn't have understood anyone tell me like, this is a great opportunity, but the somatic stuff along with the recovery and a lot of different inputs, has given me a different, because I can operate like all of us, I think,
Mhm.
here. And
Right.
you get this, we haven't even talked for a while, but
I know.
this like,
Tell us,
in
tell us all, tell the whole
your
world about the
system
somatic.
truth relating to your gut and then this opportunity to keep availing ourselves of opening our heart.
Mm,
The somatic thing connected it up in a way where, and I can ground myself now and feel my system and also be in relationship with you. But that's been transformative in giving me a sense of more agency of the body and our system's own healing capacity, you know.
mm,
And so using our own system and these other tools, and also having the collective recovery and support of of group and external help is so important, raising our hand for that, but
yeah.
also paired with this inner system ability to soothe and heal ourselves has been a game changer for me, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is so important to go back and to do that work. And I think a lot of us at that stage are just oblivious to the fact that there's even another way we can even bring the body into the healing. And in fact, we must. But
Wow.
I see such a transformation in you from the first time I met you to,
Oh,
to now in sort of that grounding internally.
that's wonderful to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you've also been such a big proponent, obviously, of mental health in specifically in Indiana. Can you talk about that? I know there's been a couple of things that you have done and what's most important to you now.
Well, it's yeah, I think, you know, to be honest, mental health and addiction has been, like any family, near and dear to our hearts as a family. It connects to our, our advocacy and also our philanthropy, but it's, just with my own journey and some of the, the families, you know, the normal struggles a family has, which, I think every family probably,
Yeah.
and, post pandemic and, like work in Indiana of this bipartisan, um, mental health roundtable. There is a collective agreement in Indiana, certainly, and I'm sure many, many other states, many other areas that, you know, there's a lot of people suffering in our locations, and there's Hoosiers suffering, and there's been this really collective, both public-private partnership and collective sort of view of how do we reinvent and innovate mental health, and it's and it so you know it's just work that we're continuing to be a part of. I sit on this roundtable with, a bunch of other folks,
Mhm.
that the Lieutenant Governor Suzanne, Crouch set up initially, with, people from IU, and John Licklider used to be the chairman and CEO of Lilly. A lot of people around the ecosystem looking at our system. How do we, spur more innovation, investment, philanthropic capital,
Mhm.
access state and federal dollars to sort of change and innovate our system. So that's been and the learning of being on that roundtable, even though we were doing a lot of the work beforehand, and just learning, in Indiana where we have a lot of history and I'm from, and I spend a lot of time, and I have family, friends, and you know, and business and civic sort of, you know, responsibilities and connections there. It's been illuminating to learn the system and see how we can, you know either with our capital or with other platforms, can we accentuate, conversation around mental health, and then, be try to be helpful and bringing about change. So it's been great. It's been fulfilling.
Yeah, I was reading about it more specifically. I mean, I know you've told me about it, but that they really focus on removing the stigma and raising awareness and education, and also growing the workforce in mental health. And I
Yeah,
thought that that's something I haven't seen a lot of people sort of come forward and say, hey, this is a really important piece, because I think we
yeah.
underestimate not only the people that are being of service and getting an education, but really providing them with the right education so that they can really help in so many different areas, because
Right.
there's so
Yeah,
much broken with the system that
totally.
I
Totally.
don't think we can fix overnight. But at least if we can teach better and allow more people to come in with more of an education and educate the people that can't afford the services that some can, I think that is such a big part of it.
I think that's great. Yeah, we need more trained people across the spectrum. We also like, there's also this thought like compassionate humans who want to, in a general way, be trained to be, to also be a resource given the insatiable need for people. So there's both specific training and then opportunities for other, graduates or other folks without some of the specific clinical or specific training. Can they also be of help to building that supportive, workforce or labor infrastructure? But um I mean, I think that's huge. I mean, by the way, Doug Hunsiger and Jay Chaudhry, who runs Division of Mental Health and Addiction for Indiana. Like, there's a very evolved, I don't know if we've talked about this, recovery community, fabric around the state. And then, with this sort of looking at our system, we've moved to this, when the Pacers actually have a sponsorship to try to bring awareness to the 988, the
Right.
suicide hotline, and then this move to this community behavioral health model, which has a lot of pieces you probably know about more than me. But one is, can we bring more compassionate mental health workers to
Yes.
situations that traditionally, and Indianapolis has done a good job, and then around the state, to bring mental health professionals to a situation that, historically had, police or other people, again, some trained, some not having that training, that could be traumatizing to some of these acute
100%.
situations. So I think there's a lot of innovation around that and really moving to that model. Yeah, there's a lot of good things happening for sure.
Yeah, I'm so impressed by that, and a lot of states, not a lot more than there have been, are trying to include that. And I know Los Angeles, some of our counties have done it, and some are still, trying to get it instituted. But, let me just like set this up. So there's a family at home whose child is suffering from psychosis, either because they haven't taken their medication and or there's some sort of mental health situation going on that's never happened before. So this is the first time that they're experiencing some sort of manic behavior, or maybe it's drug induced. Either way, they're now experiencing their child in a way that you only have seen in the movies, and they cannot understand what to do. And so their first instinct is to get them the help that they want. And when they call me, oftentimes they're like, what do you mean I have to call the police? What do you mean I have to call 911? And then once we do, all bets are off as to what happens next, and also as to which mental health facility they're transferred to, regardless of their age, their gender, their socioeconomic, place and all of it, that it's so antithetical to healing and to helping. But that's the way the system works right now. And being able to have these mental health mobile assessments at the same time, so the police don't have to be front and center and can be there only if there's an emergency, like a physical emergency, but otherwise really have these skilled people go in. And I know that even when I show up at all of these interventions, the police are very quick to be like, no, step aside, like get over here, like we don't want to hear, like we have our rules, and in the most, loving way, but
Yeah.
this is the way that it's set up. And they know it's broken. So the more we can do this, I can't emphasize enough how important it is.
Yeah, I mean, and think of every jurisdiction, the,
Yeah.
the training, the history of the people responding, there's all kinds of variables. So it's going to take a lot of collective thought, investment and training. And it's a long-term proposition, but at least, the state and a lot of stakeholders around, you know, from insurance to, the hospital networks to Riley, with adolescents to, a bunch of folks have agreed like, wow, we agree it needs reinvention, needs a lot of capital. And, we're lucky. There's federal capital available. The state's got a great balance sheet. They're committed to invest in this, in this core part of citizens, flourishing, which is,
Mhm.
a great ideal. And, a lot of people are suffering for a lot of reasons. So it's a big long-term reinvention of a bunch of pieces of a system it's over my head, but I'm learning a lot, and
Yeah.
hope to be
I
able
don't
to.
think it's that hard to put together. I see how it's complicated and red tape and complex, but I don't think it's that hard. And I don't think we're going to really even make a dent in a lot of people that are suffering with mental health and co-occurring disorders of addiction unless we do this better. Because if we're just looking for people to be on a involuntary psychiatric hold for 3 days and then be released, like that's not really, you know,
That's not the person.
not
That's not
our
the
kind of,
ticket.
that's not
Yeah,
the,
and also there's just like some thought, and then the sort of you got to pair it with the criminal justice system and how you're compassionately trying to intervene with, adolescents or others that are caught up in a system, so they can be diverted and not be put
yes,
in place, further traumatized, be in limbo,
yes,
given the issues of process and otherwise. So there's like, you need that connection to that system,
sure. And
which you need
that's
to
where our
reinvent.
mutual friend Scott Budnick comes in.
And anytime we can mention Scott Budnick, good thing. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Scott Budnick and I used to make movies together, and now we're saving people.
Yeah. Budnick's he's one of my criminal justice heroes.
Yeah,
Sure.
very impressive. Um, so
Yeah.
talk to me about, what do you think your biggest childhood lesson was? And what is your biggest recent adult lesson been?
Childhood lesson that was not a lesson, but I somehow thought was a lesson, or what? Like,
Something that you
what,
look
something my
back on,
parents imparted on me, or something that
something that you look back on as that moment or those words of wisdom or that advice or that, someone showed you something that really impacted you in a way that you still carry that with you today.
well, I mean, I give people closer to me credit, but one guy who is long departed was a guy named Mike Vogel, who was a concentration, actually two people, David Tamon, who's still with us, who used to work
Mhm.
at the JCC, was an early soccer coach, and
Mhm.
Mike Vogel, who's also a mentor of mine. Like, it's the first, as a young kid playing soccer, it's the first one I had intimate, relationship with, who had numbers stenciled from the Holocaust. It was a Holocaust survivor, but those two folks in particular really, loved me in a way and encouraged me and celebrated me in a way, looking back, that, and as a kid going through parents breaking up early and a lot of, stuff. They in a way they lit up when they saw me, and they sort of
Mm,
modeled for me my own intrinsic beauty in a way that I'm just riffing on this now, but like, I don't know, that just, when people from afar, it could be family too. I had loving family and they did the best they could, as we
mhm,
Hoffman graduates know. But, other folks who become like, you know, impactful to you, who weren't that close to the original family of origin, who, see you and celebrate you and love you and get you, like that was a lesson of I mean, I'm not even sure how to articulate it, but it was important when I think back in some of that formative years where there was some
mhm.
stuff going on. Again, a lot of it maybe, you know, not no no
Do
no
you,
cause or harm, but just was, you know, my own struggle
yeah,
and
what you
in
needed.
myself. Yeah.
Do you think that had an impact on the way that you show up as a dad?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Those guys really celebrated my quirky silliness in a
Hmm.
way, my that I don't know. I mean, it's all these years later, but I definitely the idea of being both a parent and having boundaries and consequences, also being myself and being odd and quirky and, having bizarre nicknames that no one gets, but is my thing. And like, to be youthful and
Mm,
quirky and fun and irreverent and silly with your children, and also being, hopefully keep, projecting safety and
of course.
consequences and learnings, and that's a good pairing, which I think anyone has elements of that. So that's like, how do you be yourself and feel like, deserving of being yourself, really?
Well, I don't think that's that common all the time. I think that there are parents that either didn't grow up that way themselves, so they don't have an awareness of, it's not their mode. It's not the way that they did things, so they don't know how to do it, or they're distracted, or they have their own trauma that they haven't dealt with, and they're not connected and they're not present to no fault of their own. And so I think it is something really special.
So, by the way, my daughter sometimes, like, you're so, we still snuggle at night. Well, something, what she was like, you are so weird, Dad. And I'm like, okay, do you want me to be like the father's like, good night, young, and the one who's shaking the hand, and like, or do you want me to be myself? She's like, no, I like you, but you're
Yeah,
weird. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love you, but I imagine you're unusual, but I don't know a lot of fathers in this intimate manner, but
That's
yeah,
funny.
yeah.
That's
Anyway,
funny.
yeah,
Um, so I often talk about my board of directors, and my board of directors are the people that I go to when it's really noisy up here and I need to make the right choice and I'm a little bit blocked with what my intuition is saying. And I don't want to be impulsive and I want to think it through, and I feel my own resentment or anxiety coming up as well. And so there are a handful of people that I will go to and say, what do you think? And really hear and let
yeah.
the voice be louder than the one in my head.
That's a good process.
Yeah. So do you have something like that? And who are those people for you?
I mean, I do. I have my sponsor. I
Mm-hmm.
have my therapist. I have my somatic therapist. I have another friend who, by the way, she's incredible. She should write a book, but she is also paired with the somatic work. She's a yogi. She's a trainer. She's a bunch of things, but she's really evolved, and she's also helped me take the somatic, you know, work and given me tools to continue that on my own yoga
Mhm.
mat to like do system level kind of soothing. So but you know, there are a handful of people like, and I always tell my kids this, like, you know, whoever you have to find to tell, people you trust, doesn't have to be a father or mother all the time. Whatever you'd rather not say, what your instinct tells you to not say out loud, because someone may say, may have a reaction that doesn't feel safe.
Mm.
You got to find your group to say the stuff you don't want to. So
Mhm.
I have a bunch of people, and and friends, either in recovery or not, who depend on the situation. Like, my job is to, how do I how do I have a as transparent and open life as possible? Because if the idea of keeping something in here, which I did, in my addiction, I did for a long time. Like, if I utter this, someone, um, like that, thinking that I have to protect that to be okay, when
Mhm.
that was really the barrier for me to feel a part of, right? Because mostly when you utter stuff you'd rather not tell anyone, you pick your people, you know,
Yep.
astutely, they're going to be like, oh my God, me too. And so they're
Right.
going to give you this level of connection to
Yes.
another human, and really the whole humanity, the
Yeah.
whole human condition. And so you gotta, you gotta, even when your brain tells you not to, you gotta say the things that, because we like to shape and manage how people view us, that we have to let out, but our instincts tell us maybe we shouldn't. So that was
Mhm.
long-winded, but yeah, we need that.
Yeah, I think it's so important. And what are some things that you do? And I know one of them that I can think of, but how do you feed your soul? How do you care for your soul?
Well, I really build in time to do nothing,
Mm.
like this nothingness. There's this idea, I don't know, we've talked in a while. We can stay so busy, like,
Oh, you're doing
there's all
nothing.
this great stuff to do. It could be mental health, it could be other obligations, it could be,
Yeah.
um, we want to show up for the stuff in life, externally, or kid stuff, all that. There's this thing I've really got recently, like the idea that we're, so busy or carrying so much, whether it's been, put on us optically, or we've taken that on. There's a piece of that busyness that I think is something about, we don't feel deserving of all our own joy
Mhm.
and care and ease and support and joy and sweetness in life. So I really build in a lot of, like, I'm not going to be consuming content. A lot of times I'm just on my yoga mat, like soothing my system, or I do meditate.
Mhm.
Um, so nothingness is how I
Mhm.
feed my soul. Like,
Mhm.
lack of things. Like, what if I just, we have a to-do list. What if I just don't?
Right.
The idea of just not, which
Huge for you.
is massive for me. Yeah.
Hey, that is a
And
huge shift. Uh-huh.
so I think that's good. I feed my soul by being in nature. I mean, I love nature.
Yeah.
Um, I want to, every year there's these New Year's resolutions. Like, mine is like not the normal stuff. Like, how do I be in laughter more? Like, how do I be in joy more? So I
Mhm.
want to go see more comedy. I want to go see amazing music that we both love, that feeds our soul.
I was just going to ask you, are you going to the Sphere?
I am. I am going to the Sphere
That's right.
for
Two nights.
2 nights. Yes. Um, what do I do?
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot. So, last question. What is the best advice that you've ever been given?
The best advice I've ever been given is probably to be myself.
Mm,
But is it like something somebody imparted on me or something I've learned, or
it's up to you.
one of the system level stuff got me in a way recently.
Mm,
I've gotten a lot of great advice, mostly to be myself and try to, treat everyone the same and be compassionate to others and you know, try to lift people up or use our advantages to, do things that make us feel good about ourselves and are helpful somewhat to other people. But one thing I've really got, which is maybe in your book, I haven't read it since the first, by the way, I read it before it was even maybe published.
this is
I
true.
can't remember, but
Mm,
this idea that we have to have the grief and the sadness and the heartbreak
yes.
to pair to also have the capability of feeling all our joy and pleasure and love and connection. And
Yeah.
you can't, I try to de-risk life for so long. Like
Yeah.
I'll just push that stuff away. And if you allow that stuff to come in, then you get the whole range of human emotions and connection in a way that I didn't realize I didn't have available to me, to be honest.
I love that. Yeah, so much of it I talk about, the wisdom is really in the dark nights and those moments where we can grow down and alchemize our pain into purpose and really understand so that we can really appreciate the good. And not only that, going through the darkness allows us to be able to be of service and help others after we get through it ourselves. And that's sort of the way that we can connect and show up and be there for other people.
Right. And we got to bring death in our life. We have to, this is
Mm,
another revelation. How do we bring the whole beauty and frailty of the life cycle into our being
mhm.
to have a better life and hopefully a better death? But we gotta, the idea of not looking at this natural cycle. I know this is not going to be the most exciting content you've recorded, but
No, I was just
doing
thinking,
these
that's so
these
funny
death
because
meditations has been
I was just
phenomenal.
thinking, ooh, let's do another whole episode on death. That's what I'm thinking. Because I've had a lot of death,
Yeah.
unfortunately, around me in the
Sure,
past
yeah.
couple of months, and it's been such a life, such a learning experience at the same time, and the grieving, the sort of the holding the balance of the grief with also my awareness of like, this is it. If not now, when? Like, let's go. And being able to hold both and not living in any sort of fear or anxiety or trepidation about like, what if I do this or what if I do this or what if I say that or what if I don't? And also the finality of what death means and that loss and that pain. So yeah, we'll circle back and we'll do another
Anytime.
one on death.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure at all. Maybe we'll bring in some experts. But this was so amazing and so great. And I think that I just adore you and love you. And you are such a sweet, sweet man and a gem of a person. And so thank you so much for doing
My
this.
pleasure. I adore you. You are, I mirror all that back to you. You're
Thank
incredible human and you're loving, and you telling continue to tell your story. And of course, on a daily basis, you're helping people, but you living your authentic life and telling your story is so incredible for you and all the people around you. And then all these people you don't know. It's, it's a pleasure to be in your orbit
Oh,
it's been more once in a blue moon, but
yeah,
I
we'll work on
adore you too.
that. Yeah. All
Thank you
right.
so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
All right. God bless you.